I'm Craig Lamolt. Tonight on Greater Boston, we dig into misinformation surrounding offshore wind and threats to the endangered North Atlantic right whale. We'll discuss how this is impacting the species with environmental reporter Eve Zukoff and senior scientist focused on preserving the whales. Then, what's a trad wife? The term's all over social media as some influencers online push for women to take on traditional gender roles at home. GBH's Callie Crossley has a lot of thoughts about it, and she'll weigh in ahead. And finally, how spite and some sexist comments propelled a local author to run the Boston Marathon. Nora Dufault shares her story from the stage. In the fight to save the North Atlantic right whale, every death is devastating. And this year, there have been 4 losses to the already endangered species, including one found tangled in fishing gear on Martha's Vineyard in February. Most recently, a mother was killed in a vessel collision off the Virginia coast 2 weeks ago. Its young calf is nowhere to be found. And while scientists work to save the North Atlantic right whale, they're also battling a wave of misinformation online, as environmental reporter Eve Zukoff dug into for GBH News' sister station on the Cape, CAI. She joins me now along with Mark Baumgartner, senior scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Eve, you've covered this death of right whale 5120 who washed onto Martha's Vineyard. As you said, that whale was entangled in fishing gear. But what happened after that online and the discussion about this whale?
Yeah, I mean, almost immediately there was attention to her death. Why is she here? What's happening? There were people going to the island's beach to see her. And very quickly her story got out because people care about right whales. Then within about 5 days, speculation about how did she die turned into this massive flood of misinformation because people started saying, you know, there's this offshore wind farm, Vineyard Wind, that's 15 miles away from where she was found. And people said, that must be it. That must be what killed her. Some combination of the construction or the turbines or just the power. It was thousands of comments in 5 days, and if people had waited just a little bit longer, they would have found out that no, she actually died of entanglement in fishing gear, and we knew exactly where that fishing gear came from, but it didn't matter to the hordes online.
And there's some grassroots organizations that are devoted to protecting the right whales that are very critical of offshore wind and the impact that they might about the research that was done out of Brown University and what they found about what those organizations or how those organizations are being funded.
Yeah, and to be clear, there are some conservation organizations for right whales that have nothing to do with offshore wind or offshore wind criticism. They do really great work. But this group from Brown University that studies disinformation around climate change found that 18 grassroots groups that have popped up in Massachusetts, Delaware, Rhode Island, kind of all up and down the East Coast that claim to be, you know, neighborhood groups, super local, representing the interests of right whales. They actually have links through membership, through funding, through legal representation to conservative think tanks and massive conservative donors. And there are these very clear links between them. There are paper trails that this Brown University team uncovered.
Including interests in fossil fuels and preventing renewable energy projects from moving forward, right?
Yes, exactly. There are groups in Texas that are funding, you know, small groups off the coast of Massachusetts. And these Texas groups, their main focus is blocking climate policy. Their main focus is promoting oil and gas. And so there's this kind of big question mark. Why are they so involved in right whales? And I think that, you know, this Brown University team says, you know, this is a ruse. They are using right whales as a mascot to fight offshore wind, to promote oil and gas.
Okay. Mark, there's a lot that's still not known about the impact of offshore wind on right whales, right? Does this put scientists such as yourself in sort of a tricky position in understanding what the impact could be and whether or not you want to support offshore wind?
Sure, I don't know if it's a tricky spot. There are three things that we mostly worry about when it comes to offshore wind. The first is exposure to noise. So when turbines are installed, there's these gigantic steel tubes that are basically pounded into the seafloor, and that creates a lot of noise. We worry about the whales, their hearing being damaged or their behavior being disrupted from that noise. The second thing we worry about is with all the vessel traffic that's associated with construction and operation activities around wind farms, the right whales will be more likely to get hit by those ships. As you probably know, right whales tend to get entangled in fishing gear and struck by ships. Those are the two main causes of death in the population. If you're a juvenile or an adult right whale that dies, it's almost assuredly that you died from a fishing gear entanglement or a ship strike. So these ship strikes are really important. And so the increased traffic associated with offshore wind, construction and maintenance, we worry about. The third thing is what is the impact these wind farms are going to have on the ocean itself? Are these wind farms, because they're extracting energy from the atmosphere, energy that would have gone into the ocean to mix the ocean, to create more algae, perhaps, to create more food, or perhaps reduce the amount of mixing that happens, and there's less algae and less food for right whales. That's probably the thing that we know the least about, what those impacts are. We think those impacts will be small, but that's something we really need to study. So in total, there are a lot of things that we're worried about, but many of those risks are manageable, particularly the vessel strike and the noise exposure. And I think no one's happy about another industrial activity in the ocean impacting right whales, but this is one that has the potential to have benefits for right whales because it's going to change climate change, right? It's going to change how we consume fossil fuels, reduce that, because right whales are really impacted heavily by climate change right now. And so there are goods and bads to offshore wind, but hopefully those bads can be managed.
Okay, so if you have to fall on one side, it sounds like, you know, let's keep going forward with offshore wind, that you would support offshore wind projects, but with the caveat of additional research is needed.
If we can do it well. The whole idea of right whales being impacted by human activities, there's no one in the right whale community that's saying, let's stop fishing or let's stop shipping. Like, the clothes I have on my back assuredly were almost surely produced in another country. They came to this country by a ship. No one's saying let's stop all of that industrial activity, but let's find a way to do it in a way that doesn't impact the whales. And so I would say the same thing about offshore wind. Let's find a way to have these wind farms operational, but do it in a way that doesn't harm right whales.
Okay.
And I think that's possible.
And there have been, you've reported on a number of right whale deaths very recently, right? And it should be noted, these are not deaths that were in any way caused by offshore wind. What have we been seeing recently?
Correct. We almost exclusively see deaths from whales getting hit by boats. It will be a blunt force trauma death, or a propeller will cut so deep they'll bleed out. They're actually really horrific deaths. Or right whales are getting entangled in rope and fishing gear, and then they can carry that rope. And we're primarily talking about lobster fishing gear, also some Jonah crab. It's just the nature of how this gear is set. And they will carry the gear for anywhere from weeks to months to years before things like what we saw with 5120. She was so drained from the work of carrying this heavy gear. It had cut so deeply into her skin. The rope, her skin grew over the rope. It was actually so deep in her skin.
You were there and saw the necropsy?
Very much. Yeah. I was there. I could see how deep this rope had cut into her. And exhaustion and starvation probably killed her. Just the damage of rope that tight. I mean, her skin grew around it because she was first entangled at less than a year old.
Mark, there's NOAA Fisheries and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management recently released a strategy to try to mitigate the impact of, potential impact of offshore wind. Can you talk about what's in there and is it sufficient?
Well, the strategy is kind of a framework for what we need to do to proceed carefully with offshore wind construction. There's still a lot of details to be filled in about how that's going to happen. And I think the way to do that, a smart way to do that, is to start with the wind farms that we have and study how does it go? How do we do monitoring for right whales? How do we do when we say, okay, we're going to stop pile driving now because we think there are right whales around. Are there really right whales around? Are we really providing meaningful protections? And let's learn from those first few wind farm construction projects, and then take that knowledge and move it to the next set. And just keep doing that. And I think in that incremental way, we'll learn how to do this well for the benefit of the whales and for the benefit of the industry to be able to build wind farms.
Can you talk about just how threatened these whales are right now? And I can't help but wonder, and I don't mean to be grim, but is it too late? Are we so far along that extinction is certain, or can these whales still be saved?
These whales can definitely still be saved. So right whales are dealing with climate change. That's a real stressor for them. Sure. And it's really keeping their the amount of calves that they produce every year low. But at the same time that's happening, they're dealing with vessel strikes and fishing gear entanglements. And those two factors combined are pushing this animal towards extinction. But of course, we have control over vessel strikes and fishing gear entanglements. There are things that we can do, and there are solutions on the table for those things. It's just whether we have the will to do those. And you're absolutely right. Right whales are critically endangered. There's about 350 of them left in the world. There's only about 70 to 80 breeding females left in the world. This is a really critical time for North Atlantic right whales, which is why it's so important and so urgent for us to get this right with offshore wind and to keep pressing on vessel strikes and fishing gear entanglements.
Okay, well, Mark Baumgartner and Eve Zukoff, thank you both so much for joining us today and talk about this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, have you heard of a trad wife? It's short for traditional wife, and if you spend much time on social media sites like Instagram and TikTok, there's a decent chance you've been seeing it all over, accompanied by videos like these.
It's really sad that being a traditional wife gets a lot of hate online because honestly, it's the most fulfilling job that I've ever had in my entire life.
I'm a firm believer that women do not thrive in a structured workplace.
Being a traditional wife is so much more than just cooking and cleaning and wearing house dresses. It is taking your house and making it a home. Aprons are like our house uniforms. We know when we put those aprons on, we mean business. We are gonna get to cooking, we are gonna get to cleaning, we are going to scrub this house down.
The movement focuses on traditional gender roles for women. It's a rejection of modern-day feminism. And GBH's Callie Crosley has thoughts. She's here to share them now. Hey,
Hi,
Callie.
Craig. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thank you for joining us. All right, so trad wife. Is trad wife just a new term for people who choose to stay home and raise children at home and not have a paying job outside the home? Or is there something else going on here?
Well, it feels a little bit like a throwback to those images of the 50s with the women with the aprons and cooking the perfect dinner and having the perfectly clean home with the very great kids. Those were known as traditional wives. It's been shortened to trad, I believe, for a reason. It has a kind of creepy overlay to it. And for many of them, okay?
It feels like it's like a fetishization, I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Fetishization
Yes.
of that lifestyle.
Yes, exactly. Now, let's be clear. One of the things that the feminist movement did was allow women to make what choices they want to make for their lifestyle. And so if you want, I have lots of friends who always knew they wanted to have a family and kids and stay home and do that. But it didn't ever have that underpinning of kind of cult-like behavior. What's really strange to me now, I'm looking at these young women who are just fiercely rejecting just the other opportunities that were made open for all of us. If you don't want to have that, to take on those roles, if you want to be in the workplace or whatever, they're fiercely rejecting that, saying that's not the way for all young women to go, that this is the way. And that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, my first take in hearing about this was, well, okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's your thing, then by all means, you do you, and that's great. But there does seem to be a tone, or at least a goal of recruitment, of saying, like, you are doing things wrong. If you're not doing it this way, you need to be like us.
And there's a lot of folks on trying to get people, come on over to this side. I want to be clear that there's a little subset of it that is very linked to people for whom this is a religious thing. You know, the Bible tells me be submissive to my husband, and so therefore I'm going to follow these gender roles, and this is what submissive means to me. So there is that. I'm not talking about that. For the most part, these videos and the way that this movement is being described is very secularly based. Some people feel it has an underpinning of a little alt-right, leanings toward it as well.
Sure.
It's overwhelmingly white.
Yeah.
I'll just point that out. And, of course, it's for women who have some amount of privilege to be able to discuss this kind of thing, and even have the option to do it.
Right, to not have to work outside the home. For people who have been in this lifestyle, I guess I'm wondering, for those who maybe see these videos and think, well, actually, you know, that a lot of this looks pretty nice. You know, being at home, being with my family, making delicious food. What are these videos leaving out?
Well, now we're seeing from a lot of women who accepted the trad wife, pushed this trad wife lifestyle, as you say, recruited others to it, who said, wait a minute, I got lost in the process, which is what actually early feminists were saying and late feminists are saying. You can't lose yourself in the process. And then everything, my husband controlled everything, so I had nothing when the marriage broke up. So we're seeing some of those young women now coming back wanting to tell people this is what it really looks like.
And I think we have some video of those, some of those people right here.
Being a trad wife means returning to traditional goals, traditional times, traditional life, traditional gender roles. The man is the breadwinner. And so your husband has authority over you.
Whether or not I was rich or poor literally depended on how pretty I was and how good I was at doing those things that men wanted women to do, from the kitchen to the bedroom.
So exactly why you notice you never see trad wives in their 40s advocating for that life.
I hope that you'll remember, a man is not a plan and never was. Your finances should not depend on somebody being in love with you. That's just not a secure bet.
To what degree is this being driven by men?
Well, we see a lot of commentary. I'm actually shocked by it. I've been hearing about it on some podcasts of men saying women need to be more feminine, because if you're not feminine, nobody wants you. Feminine energy, we need some tradition. And so a lot of women are feeling like, well, if I want to be married, if I want to date somebody, this is the way I have to go. I have to say this is also linked to this kind of coaching online known as hypergamous coaching, which means that it's mostly young women. You're coaching women to date and marry rich men. Okay. One of the young women has 1 million followers, and she says, you don't go for the nice guys, you go for the guys who can afford you. Very transactional in nature. Some might suggest that marriage has always had a level of transactional piece to it. But in my day, we used to call it something else. I'm just saying. But anyway, there's a lot of that going on with some male voices on top of it saying, yes, yes, this is what women should do to attract me. Then there was the story of the 24-year-old Latina woman who graduated from Harvard who said, I married the rich guy and that's what everybody else should do. So there's a lot of overlap going on with some what I think is toxic anti-feminism rather, that seems to have come together in the trad wives and the hypergamous coaching and all of that. And it's, again, young women, which is scary to me.
Yeah. To what degree do you think this might be a reaction to how the culture has sort of been moving maybe away from traditional gender roles? And there's actually been a lot of discussion about gender in general in society and in politics right now. Do you think that this is a reaction to all that?
I think there's some part of it is. I think there's also nostalgia. For some people, you can look back. Again, this is overwhelmingly white women, but now a lot of black women are into this now, I have to say.
Right, it's not just white women now.
Right, so I'm seeing that online too, but it feels comfortable. What does the dating coach says? Our nervous system is wrecked from having to do so many things all at once, just trying to survive and pay our bills. So why should we? She says we should go another route. I mean, that's we'll see how long this lasts. When I went back to try to follow when did it seem to kick up more, because as I said, some of this is cyclical. it's like 2021. Remember, we're coming out of COVID.
Sure.
People looking for stability, looking for comfort. There's some part of that as well. And again, that's your choice. Okay, but I hope it's not part of a kind of what I'm seeing to be a cult-like experience.
Okay. Callie Crossley, thank you so much for coming on and joining us to talk about this
You're
today.
welcome.
Finally tonight, sometimes there's nothing more motivating than being underestimated. And that's exactly what fueled local author Nora Dufault to run the Boston Marathon several years back with no running background to speak of, in spite of sexist comments from her professor who told her she couldn't finish the race. Nora shared her story with Stories from the Stage, and we bring you that now as a partnership between that show and this one.
So the leader of this little maverick band of unregistered runners who had just completed the marathon was also my art professor, and he was the director of this gallery that we had started, a group of students and artists, this gallery, an independent art school. And he said, you know, the women cannot run the marathon. All they would do is try. They wouldn't finish, and they would cry. Now, we women in that group, we had been the pit crew. We had been the support group. We had been the shut up and just make the coffee team for this group of runners. And now we were listening to our leader give a rationale for why that was our position. So I and 3 other women in that group, we decided we were going to run the marathon. We were very unlikely marathon runners. I was the least athletic of them all. I had to take developmental gym when I was in junior high school. I had to wear orthopedic shoes from the time I was 10 until I was 15. I had a leg length discrepancy that made me trip and fall all the time. But we decided we were going to do it, and we were going to do it. So we started with 2 miles. And this first 2 miles, I mean, we couldn't even finish running 2 miles at one go. I mean, we had to walk and run and walk and run. It was miserable. And then 4 miles, 8 miles. And finally, in the middle of the winter, it's a 13-mile run. That's half a marathon. But just at the time that you need to ramp up your training for the marathon, if you're training for the Boston Marathon in Boston, Boston weather ramps up winter. And it's miserable. I mean, you run in slush. You run with your face being pelted by shards of icy, just like glass. You're just, it's sometimes so cold that your nostrils are filled with icicles. But we got through that, and we were now 2 weeks before the marathon, and our leader told us that if we thought we were going to do this, we would need to go to the finish line and run all the way to the bottom of Heartbreak Hill to the Newton Firehouse, turn around and come back, do an 18-mile run. And we did it. We did it. So now it's the night before the marathon, and I am terrified. So why was I even running a marathon anyway? I mean, who would do such a crazy thing? Oh yeah, I remember, because I said I would do it. And why did I say I was doing it? Well, part of it was because I needed to raise the bar on my own accountability. My mother always said about me that, you know, hey, some people live in BC and some people live in AD, but you live in EC, the era of the extenuating circumstance. Nora, there's always some reason, some glib little reason why you didn't, couldn't, shouldn't, wouldn't do the thing that you said you would. And she was right. And that's why I was running the marathon. I had promised my friends, but I was tossing and turning. And we lived right in Boston, so you could hear all these church bells like 3 o'clock, and now it's 4 o'clock. And I can't get to sleep. How can you run a marathon without sleeping? I've never done this before. And besides which, P.S., not only am I not an athlete, but what about this, we only ran 18 miles. I am not a math person either, but I know that 18 and 26.2 are not the same thing. In fact, there's a whole third of a marathon in there that's missing. So I've never run this far. What if I get hurt? I mean, anything could happen. And then the next thing I hear is my alarm. 7:30, time to get up. Make pancakes for the entire team, 4 women, 6 men. We're running the marathon. We eat our pancakes and we get into all these station wagons to drive out to Hopkinton. Now, the women all went in the same station wagon. There's lots of camaraderie and hilarity. And then, it's like 20 minutes of driving and then 30 minutes of driving. And everybody gets really pretty quiet. And we're all kind of sitting with our own feelings. And then finally you get to Hopkinton, and that just breaks the spell because there's so much adrenaline there. You're breathing it in. You're practically inhaling it. It's everybody running around and talking. Nobody cares that we have like our bibs are handmade and they have 0 for our registered number, because back in the day, unregistered runners were like a minor annoyance. I mean, they're like pigeons or orange peels or paper cups on the course. Nobody worries about it. And then the race starts. I mean, it's so amazing. The gun goes off, there's this roar of voices, and you see this like a snake of confetti going down the undulating hills of Hopkinton. Like, it's just amazing, and you're just standing in place waiting for your turn to start moving. And when you finally start moving, it's just mile after mile of people congratulating you and giving you encouragement and cheering you on. And then you're halfway through, and you know you only have halfway to go. But the most amazing thing happens is that you hit Wellesley College. And as a woman, it was fantastic because there's this energy tunnel there where the women of Wellesley College line both sides of the street. And when they saw women who only from 1972 had been able to run, why, they just went crazy. And it was like we were lifted and pushed right out of that energy tunnel to the bottom of the Heartbreak Hill. And let me tell you, that was tough. 2 of the women who started with us, they made it, but that really set them back a little. But Polly and I, we just put our heads down and went up to the top. At Boston College, people start yelling at you, "It's downhill all the way," which is inaccurate. It's not. It's actually, there's some hills. But people are still lining the course, giving you encouragement and cheering you on. And then when you turn that corner and you look down Boylston Street, that little tiny hill, and you can see that finish line, Polly and I grabbed each other's hands and we put our arms up like this and we sailed down that hill and crossed that finish line. Well, you know, my art professor was right. We did try, and I did cry, but we finished. And those tears, they were tears of joy.
You can catch more stories from the stage Mondays at 9:30 p.m. on World, and Fridays at 8 here on GBH2, or anytime on the Stories from the Stage Facebook page and YouTube channel. That's it for tonight, but come back tomorrow. Massachusetts' housing market is rough across the board. But according to the new GBH News Commonwealth Beacon poll, it's especially hard for the state's Latino communities to access affordable housing. We'll dig into that and more tomorrow at 7. Thanks for watching. I'm Craig Lamolt. Good night.